Global, leading Britain's conversation with Matthew Wright.
Yes, indeed. My pleasure to serve you breakfast this bank holiday weekend. And we're doing, in this hour, I really want to talk about young people, those young people who don't appear to be doing anything at all. Why are close to 1 million 16 to 24-year-olds not in an employment, education or training? They're so-called NEETs, not employment, education, training. How is this possible, he asks, at the risk of sounding incredibly naive, when, and I've checked, it is illegal for 16 to 18-year-olds not to be in school, work or training. It's against the law. To be as accurate as I can, the number of 16 to 24-year-olds estimated to be, dossing about, is said to be 872,000 in the quarter from April to June this year. What are they actually doing? How are they affording to do it? If you are just such a young person, give us a call and tell us. Don't worry about the cost. We can call you straight back. Or maybe you're the parent of such a young man or woman. Love to hear from you. Are you trying to get your kids into work, training or education? Are you happy for them to just hang about? Are you funding their wasteful lives, indeed, if that is what they are doing? We know this government, like the last, is determined to tackle rising levels of economic inactivity, but until now I'd assumed we were focusing on the middle-aged. 872,000 not in work amounts to around 1/10 of all young people, 16 to 24, 12.2% in fact. Young people not in employment can be unemployed and actively seeking work, or economically inactive and thus not seeking work. About 2/3 of NEETs fall into the economically inactive category. So again, I have to ask, who's paying for them? They can't all be drug dealers, can they? He says that nervously, about to find out whether or not they may all be drug dealers. A total of 9.4 million Brits of all ages are currently deemed economically inactive, mostly students, the retired, or those with caring responsibilities. I would say caring is work. But about 1/5, close to 200,000 people say they want a paying job. When it comes to the rising number of young people not in education, employment or training, the government says it recognises the complex, long-standing nature of the challenge and says it has a raft of measures planned to tackle it, including the creation of a new body, Skills England, to address skills needs, and a new youth guarantee of access to training, apprenticeships and back-to-work support. Great, a new body. That'll sort everything out double quick, won't it? Forgive my facetiousness, but there's so many factors at play, like the north-south economic divide. It's hard to imagine how a new body is going to fix that. The fact that you're 3 times more likely to be a NEET if you're a 19 to 21-year-old with experience of the care system, well, our broken care system isn't going to be fixed by a new body. Poor mental health is another major barrier to employment for many young people. The number of them out of work because of ill health doubling in the last decade to about just shy of 200,000 last year. Although there is an assumption, started by the Tories, that this must mean we have more slackers rather than more unwell people identifying what's wrong with them and seeking help if they can find any. Where are all these young people? What are they doing? Well, Roman Dibden might be able to help us. He's a head of youth unemployment charity Rise Up and joins me first. Morning, Roman.
Good morning, Matthew. Thanks for the wonderful introduction about the problem statement we're currently facing.
Well, I call me cynical, but a new body is not going to fix some of the major factors at play here. But if we may start with some of my basic questions, where are these young people? What are they doing?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. We are facing somewhat of a crisis amongst youth unemployment. We have seen a rise over recent years. A lot of the feedback is linked to kind of on the back of COVID and mental health amongst young people. In fact, the figures that you've quoted, we estimate around 200,000 of those are linked to mental health issues amongst young people. As Rise Up, we particularly welcome the Young People's Guarantee. However, we don't feel that it delves deep enough to fix the challenges that are currently being faced. For example, that youth guarantee is aimed at 18 to 21-year-olds when we predict that will only result in change sort of 4 years down the line. The problem is here and now, and it is around access to opportunities. Now, what I will say is, whilst it could look like young people are dossing around. There is a genuine appetite to work amongst young people, but they do lack the confidence and self-belief in themselves. And also the rise in the apprenticeship levy has resulted in more of a divide, interestingly enough, because it's removed the level 2 and 3 entry-level apprenticeship positions because businesses would prefer to upskill the existing workforce. So I'll give you an example. I was working with an employer in Manchester recently. I'm a big advocate for apprenticeships, having left school at 14 and I was neat for sort of 6 months myself. This particular employer created a level 3 electrical apprenticeship, so a trades apprenticeship. They had one position available and they received over 500 applicants for that one position. So that just kind of shows where the issues are.
But there are some key questions I've got that need. It is illegal, as far as I understand it, not to be in school or jobs, employment, educational training between the ages of 16 and 18. I think it's brought in by Gordon Brown, if memory serves. So where is that cohort of young people? Why aren't they? I mean, the law says they should be in either school or work or where are they? Yeah. I mean,
I think we've seen a rise in sickness benefits as well. So a lot of the figures that have been released show a significant rise in those individuals that are economically inactive. So that's part of the issue here. There is study programs available for young people, but there is a short supply. You know, there isn't enough spaces, unfortunately. So yes, you do have a proportion of young people that might be on the wrong side of the law and might be up to no good on the streets. But I would say generally there is an appetite to work, but it's a multifaceted approach. It isn't, you know, a Skills England or a youth guarantee isn't going to fix it. It would help, but there needs to be more done.
I can tell, because you're on a Zoom call, that you're considerably younger than me. Most people are. Are you aware of, it was a Margaret Thatcher policy. I can't believe I'm going to big it up, but it was called the Enterprise Allowance Scheme, and it was introduced in the early 80s. And a number of bands and artists, famous Tracy Emin did it, Jeremy Deller, artists. There were quite a few bands that went through it, Shaun Ryder. And it basically essentially paid you the dole, but gave you the freedom to sort of set up your thing, whatever it might be. If you were an artist, you were basically paid the dole money to be an artist. You didn't have to do the I'm available for work and I'm looking for work all the time. You were paid to develop your skills, albeit not very much indeed. And I've been thinking about this since I first saw the figures about the number of young people that are neat. And I was just thinking, could a Margaret Thatcher policy actually have some legs again in the 21st century, that maybe there's a different direction we could go in, and that is to enable young people to pursue whatever it is they want to do it with basic state funding behind them. Do you like the idea?
I never thought I'd advocate for a Maggie Thatcher policy, but no, I think I was having this conversation with some at the DWP just last week, actually, and you mentioned in the introduction that one of the characteristics or significantly at-risk young people are care leavers, and we tend to see that in Manchester as well. And amongst the care leavers, one of the big barriers that we face is that, so in Manchester, they're assessed to be a care leaver at just age 16. They've had significant hurdles in life that they've got to overcome. And I think we need to change the language around returning to work. So for some of those care leavers, they transition into a supported housing scheme, often with 24-hour support provided by a kind of a social housing landlord. The rate of rent in those schemes sits at around the sort of £250 a week mark. And I know that through conversations with support workers, they're actively saying to young people, well, look, it's not in your best interests to work because of the benefit system. So I think a number of stakeholders need to come together to look at how we can make that transition into work easier for that particular cohort, because it's just unobtainable at that rate, especially if you look at the apprenticeship wage at the moment.
Excellent talking to you, Roman, this Sunday morning, and thank you. I have a friend in youth work, and it's a thankless task, and I just want to change that by saying thank you.